people talk a lot about meditation as a way, which it certainly is, a way that leads to presence. But I wanted to talk about the kind of expressive, out of control processes that we do, and how you see that as leading to presence.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great question. And it's actually you that really opened me up to this, just the whole idea of being out of control,
Mhm.
and it's, it goes against everything that we learn in graduate school and psychotherapy about losing control. And yet there is such a vital need for us to somehow move beyond the place where we're absolutely in charge, so to speak. So meditation is, I've meditated for years, and I still use forms of meditation, pretty much every week. I use a lot of different things to help me to kind of come into myself. And it's the way I would describe it, Anne, is I think it's necessary but not sufficient for us to be fully human and fully alive. And I think where it falls short is that, well, let me say it this way, in meditation, we can develop a keen sense of what we're experiencing in the moment. So I may, for instance, notice that, that I'm carrying sadness. And that awareness is really important. And without having that sort of witness self that can notice that there's sadness there, I might bypass it. I might just, go about my life and not even know it's there. But it's different than actually crying, actually weeping, actually embodying the emotion of sadness. So we have the ability and capacity to witness, but in that we're still slightly removed from the full connection to the experience. And the embodiment allows us to have that full experience. And that's where the losing control part, I think, is so important.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were saying that maybe one of the criticisms of this work that I think is a misunderstanding is that when we have our feelings, we get attached to them. And so, in my experience, doing this work allows people to really be fully embodied and to have their feelings, but comes to the same place in some ways as meditation does. At a certain point, it starts to give us space from those feelings so that we can allow them to flow through us and we can be fully alive without feeling like they are all of who we are. So that's, for me, it's a similar intention, which is to be aware and open and accepting of everything that's flowing through us without being attached to it or without feeling like we're identified with it. And I find that our work does that incredibly well.
Yeah. Well, because when you actually experience a feeling, genuinely experience a feeling, it has a short shelf life,
Yeah.
It's really impossible to attach to it because, if I'm really angry and I express my anger,
it changes.
Yeah, within 30 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever, it's over, And if it's still there, then it usually suggests that the anger is a cover for something else that you're not willing to feel.
Right.
So it's not attaching to the anger, it's using the anger to avoid, maybe I feel hurt, maybe I feel frightened,
Right.
So I hold the anger. The attachment to the anger is the avoidance of the other feeling.
And we work a lot with that, right? We work with noticing places where people are attached to things and helping them find the truth underneath, because we're really going for flow.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And sometimes, like, the only way to get to the feeling underneath is by allowing space for the more powerful charging feeling, you know. So if I say, I hate you, I hate you know,
I hate you back.
and we just kind of welcome that in some way, you know, pretty quickly I get to the pain in my heart that you know that is actually what's creating my sense of wanting to say I hate you. Really, probably what I'm saying is I hate the way you make me feel. I hate how you can hurt me, you know.
Right. And I think that's also maybe a really important thing to talk about, is that we do this work with an intention towards self-responsibility. So we're not running around hitting and saying, I hate you, and getting people really good at saying that to other people. We're teaching people that there are certain kinds of feelings that, and maybe this will lead into the next question, but there's certain kinds of feelings that are cover-ups for things we don't want to feel. There's certain kinds of feelings that need to be expressed because they move us towards connection with the other, right? I mean, I'm thinking about how to talk about that, because I think that's also one of the images of this work, is that people are standing around yelling at each other, hurting each other, and that's really not what we're doing, right?
Yeah. Again, you know, I think the losing control piece is really important, because um, the attachment, you know, to anything creates this, you know, creates the negativity around it. Like, why we get the judgments is not because, you know, I might say I hate you, or you know, I want to kill you, or you know, have some of those really negative expressions. Um, because again, those things are just the outer manifestation of a deeper emotional state. And a child knows this. A child throws a tantrum and then curls up in her mother's lap, you know,
Yeah.
10 minutes later, because she's discharged all of that intensity. Well, why is it any different for us as adults? Sometimes we need the exact same thing. We need to release that in order to feel safe enough to make contact.
Yeah, you know, I keep thinking about this, the out of control piece, which you and I have talked about a lot. And my experience in workshops, when after 5 days, you know, there's a sense that people have really gone out of control. They've let go of all of those places where they're trying to present in a certain way, or they're trying to be something, and they have really surrendered to something much larger and allowed it to flow through them. And I am always struck by the sense of unity and open-heartedness and connection, and even silence that comes at the end of those processes that are often so loud, so out of control, so chaotic. And it's a big reason that I wanted to talk about this, because I experience it so much, this profound openness and sense of unity that comes when we can let go of those controls that keep us in our separate selves.
Yeah, that's so profoundly true. And you know, I'm thinking about it in terms of the couples work.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that.
It's very similar. You know, I think your work in the larger group is reflected um, to a very large degree in the couples work as well. And the couple, I look at the couple as the first unit of community, um, and we often, when we work with couples, we've had so many couples that have come from other forms of couples therapy, and they often are frustrated because they're taught how to negotiate, how to dialogue, how to compromise, conflict resolution. But there's an amazing passion that takes place in relationships that somehow doesn't translate to the therapy room,
Mm-hmm.
so that the couples show up in a different way in the therapy room, normally speaking, than they do in their living room.
Right.
So, we try to do the same thing in the couples work, is to make it okay for them to get a little out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often scary because there's a lot at stake. If you're in a committed relationship and you're going to go home with this person, oftentimes you're afraid to bring up, the elephant in the living room,
Right.
But it's only when it happens. It's only when somebody says, I hate the way that you wear your hair, or I can't stand the way you drive, something that they've been holding on to, even though it may sound ridiculous. It sets in motion all this open energy that starts out very messy, but in my experience, it's the only thing that leads to real full-bodied deep connection on the other end, where there's a certain way you love somebody, and then there's a certain deep felt experience of that only comes when we've let go of what gets in the way.